Finals fever is in full swing as the Melbourne Vixens earn the right to host the 2012 Grand Final after they took care of business against the Northern Mystics in the major semi-final. The Waikato Bay of Plenty Magic moving through to the preliminary final, dashing the title hopes of the Adelaide Thunderbirds with a thrilling one-goal win in the minor semi. As I say hello and welcome to Centre Pass, the official video podcast of the ANZ Championship. Dan Ryan here alongside Sharelle McMahon. Sharelle, we started the final series with 4 teams. The Thunderbirds, the first casualty. We're now down to our final 3.
Yes, the first casualty, but only just. Didn't we have some amazing matches? I mean, it's just, I guess, really true to the form of this competition throughout the whole season. So, amazing games, really.
Sharelle, let's check out the scores from the semi-final, starting, of course, with the major semi-final played in Melbourne on Sunday. It was the Melbourne Vixens coming from behind after a slow start in the first half to defeat the Northern Mystics 56-50, and then a thrilling one-goal encounter in Hamilton on Monday night with the Magic stealing victory from the Adelaide Thunderbirds 49-48. Let's have a closer look at this semi-final, Sharelle. It really was a game of two halves. You could tell in that opening quarter and towards the start of the second quarter, the Vixens were very nervous, particularly that front line. They were spooked a little bit by Anna Harrison. The chairlift was in full swing, and I suppose for Karen Howarth, she was probably the most nervous out of the 3 in that front line.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably say that, and you know, the girls have been looking at their chairlift to see how they could overcome that, and we'd heard a lot coming out of New Zealand that they had other little tricks up their sleeve. We didn't really see anything new. That first quarter from the Mystics was really dominant. They were putting an incredible amount of pressure on that inexperienced Vixens front end, and the way the ball was moving in their attack line, it was great to watch. Yeah,
speaking of their attack line, Catherine Latu had it all over Jiva Mentor for the first 30 minutes, yeah. And Maria Tutaya was nailing everything from range as well. They were on fire in the first 30.
And that's the real strength of this group, is when those two, you know, Maria works the edge of the circle and just slips in nice and quietly and sinks the long bombs, and Catherine Latu around the post just holding so strongly. So that was happening in the first half, and they were just finding some great space.
One of the big talking points in that first half was a huge head clash between Timapara George and Jade Clark, the Mystics teammates. Maddie Brown involved in it as well, but so lucky that both players did not get hurt from that and have to be taken from the game. It was a huge injury.
It was a massive clash. I was watching very close on the sidelines, and I thought that they were in a lot of trouble. And this was when the Mystics actually had the lead very early in the second quarter by 5 goals. So, you know, who knows what impact that had. It was a big clash, but true to their, you know, toughness, I guess, up they bounced and away they kept going. But yeah, it was a good result really for something that could have been very nasty.
Second half, a different story. A few positional changes made by the Melbourne Vixens. They swapped Maddie Brown and Chelsea Tregear. It freed Maddie up when she moved into the centre, gave her a bit more space to move. And then they changed their defensive pattern a little bit too, with Bianca Chatfield sitting back, working a little bit closer with Jiva Mentor. Had a huge impact on the match.
It did. A couple of those, I mean, small changes, I guess, in the context. But I thought Chelsea Tregear actually had a great game on wing attack, really opened on the centre pass very nicely. And as you said, Maddie Brown just, you know, found a little bit more freedom coming into that attack line. So that really worked well. And I loved watching the Vixens change up their defensive combinations. You know, they did a positional swap where B. Chatfield went back onto Catherine Latu for a bit, and it kind of just threw the flow that the Mystics had out.
There's always pivotal moments in big finals, and probably early on in that third quarter, Catherine Latu's first shot was a massive air ball. It kind of was the beginning of the Mystics unravelling, really a pivotal moment in that match.
It was, and strangely, Catherine Latu didn't seem that comfortable and confident all game. You know, even early on she was a bit shaky under the post, which we just don't see very often, and that air ball, yeah, it was, I think there was a look of shock on everyone's face really, and I don't know, maybe it shook the confidence of the group, but you're right, things started to kind of swing, the momentum swung back the other way after that.
Third quarter absolutely dominated by the Melbourne Vixens. 16-11, they won at 40-all at three-quarter time. It forced the Mystics coaching staff, Debbie Fuller and her crew, to make wholesale changes. So many changes to that back line they made. Fair to say, and also in the wing attack position, changes did not work in the end though.
No, well, that's right, and you know, we saw it in the grand final last year where they made some changes in their defensive lineup that kind of didn't work against the Firebirds either. So look, the Vixens in that fourth quarter, they shot 16 out of 16. They had a great quarter, finished the game off extremely strongly, and I think it's fair to say that those changes just didn't work.
Well, the Melbourne Vixens have earned the right to host the grand final in a fortnight's time. Deserving winners, that is for sure. The Northern Mystics now relegated to the preliminary final, where they will take on the Waikato Bay of Plenty Magic in an all-New Zealand showdown. Sherelle, let's now have a chat about the Magic and the Thunderbirds game. It was one of the best games of the season. It could have gone either way. Such an incredible tussle.
It was a great contest and a little indicative of the season, I think, throughout the whole competition. I mean, games have gone either way and teams have played well at different times. I mean, Magic had such a great first quarter, Thunderbirds amazing second quarter. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and then even pretty much for the last half. So the Magic, their front line has just been building and building and getting more and more solid as the season's gone on. And you know, another 100% game from Irene van Dijk. She's just so tough to play on, and a couple of interesting changes on her though throughout the match.
Yeah, it was really pivotal that second quarter where we saw the Thunderbirds come right back into the contest. Coach Jane Woodlands-Thompson just made a positional switch with Beck Bully and Shani Layton. It did have a huge impact, and Thunderbirds right back in the game at half time.
They did, because in that first quarter it just looked like, again, for, you know, similar to a couple of weeks ago when the Thunderbirds travelled over to New Zealand, that they might just have it over them in that attack line in particular. But you know, fair play to the Thunderbirds. Great positional swap. Beck Bully, who would have thought that she was going to have such an influence on shutting Irene van Dijk down? I mean, she just had a superb game, really. And as I said, that second quarter was almost unbelievable by the Thunderbirds.
Looking at the contest going into it, there was a lot of talk about the Thunderbirds' front line having to work together to beat that of Borrego and De Bruyne, the Magic backline. And what we saw in the second quarter was Emily Beaton just firing in some beautiful balls to Carla Borrego when she was isolated, and Erin Bell doing a terrific job at keeping Casey Williams really busy and occupied.
Absolutely. I thought that both Bell and Beaton had a really great game, and you know, when the Thunderbirds are playing at their best, it's when they're letting the ball go into that circle, into Borrego and cutting things open, and they certainly did that in the second quarter.
A bit of controversy in the third quarter with the match officials mixing up the centre passes. They gave Magic 2 centre passes in a row, then to make up for it, Thunderbirds had 2 in a row. So you're not too sure how much of a bearing that had on the contest, but certainly a bit of a blunder there. But the third quarter won by the Magic, and then right back in the contest for a brilliant fourth quarter.
Absolutely. Look, the Magic won 3 out of the 4 quarters, so you know, they had a strong game. There's no doubt about that. They just had a massive lapse in that second quarter. So you know, this is the strength of this Magic side. They've got so much experience in big games throughout the court that you know, it doesn't seem to matter what position they're in either, that they can get themselves back into it.
Erin Bell had a chance in the dying moments to shoot the match winner, but missed a goal from a shaking post from Casey Williams. But the Magic backline did a great job to keep Carla Borrego to 5 goals for that second half. A really phenomenal effort.
Absolutely. I mean, Carla Borrego is such a dominant player under that post, so to keep her that quiet was fantastic. So look, they just come up with a couple of crucial intercepts and turnovers when it needed to happen in that last quarter, and I guess that's what we've come to expect from this Magic lineup.
So that is the season over for the Adelaide Thunderbirds. Tough pill to swallow for them, Sherelle, in 4th place. Just so, as you said, so indicative of how close this season was. Any team in that top 4 could have won the title.
Well, I mean, look, the Thunderbirds, I would have thought that they might push for the premiership, and now they finished 4th. So yeah, so incredibly tight.
Sherelle, who is your performer of this week's semi-finals?
Well, my performer of the week is actually a group of players. It's the Vixens defensive lineup. So we had Julie Coletta on wing defence, Bianca Chatfield goal defence, and Jiva Mentor back in goalkeeper. I thought that particularly in that second half, they did a great job on the Mystics front line and just kept chipping away. I think that was their aim. They knew that at times they were going to open them up, but if they kept working hard and changing things up, which they did, they'd get them, and they did.
My performer of the week goes to Thunderbirds goal attack, Erin Bell. I thought Tegan Caldwell for the Vixens was outstanding for them, but Erin Bell I thought probably had the best game of her career against the Magic backline. Really outstanding, 26 goals, 29 attempts, and just shouldered a lot of responsibility and probably had the better of Casey Williams for the majority of that game, but unlucky not to nail that last one.
It was, and it's tough, isn't it? Because you remember those things when it comes down to it, but she had an outstanding game.
Time now to preview the preliminary final. Which team will have the right to face off with the Vixens in the grand final? It will be either the Northern Mystics or the Waikato Bay of Plenty Magic. Sherelle, a huge game played on Monday night. It will be a home game for the Mystics, played in Auckland. These two teams have met twice throughout the year this year. Their head-to-head is 1 apiece. It was 6 goals to the Mystics in round 2 and 2 goals to the Magic in round 12. So this could go either way. And really the form of both of these teams have been a little bit up and down. Obviously the Magic
you know, some great solid wins for the last 10 rounds, but, you know, even last week a little bit up and down throughout the matches, so it's a little hard to pick on form.
A really interesting point for this game will be how Anna Harrison comes up from the calf injury. She was fantastic in the first half against the Vixens and clearly hampered in the second half. She has a big task up against Irene van Dijk. The Mystics will need her.
They will need her. I mean, there's so many great matchups across the court here. So looking forward to that one in particular. Catherine Latu against De Bruyne and Williams. I mean, you could just almost read out every combination down the court, and each one of them is crucial. So it's hard to pick. It's a really hard one to pick.
Silver Ferns all over the place. These two teams, of course, met in the preliminary final last year. It was the Mystics that got over the line. The first time they've been the first best team in New Zealand in their history. So there is so much competition and rivalry between these two teams. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Sherelle, who are your tips for this week's preliminary final? You got 2 from 2 last week. I got none. You've jumped ahead by 1 in our tipping competition, but who is your tip for this week's prelim?
Well, I actually think that the Magic are going to continue on their winning way. I thought when they were playing their best, they were incredibly dominant last week and over the last few weeks, so I think that they're the ones with the form.
Well, I'm going to go the Magic as well, so I'm not going to be able to make up anything on the tipping competition, but I agree, Magic to make it through to the grand final as well. Well, this week the ANZ Championship have announced their award nominees for the season 2012. We're going to have a look at all the nominees in our 2 categories, of course, the most valuable player and the best young player. Sherelle, starting with the most valuable player, these are the nominations for season 2012, of course, voted on a 3-2-1 basis by a panel of netball experts. We've got Laura Langman from the Magic, Susan Prattley from the New South Wales Swifts, Madison Brown from the Melbourne Vixens, Caitlin Thwaites from the Central Pulse, Irene van Dijk from the Magic, 2 in there for the Waikato team, and Temepara George from the Northern Mystics. This award has normally been dominated by goalers and defenders. Sherelle, who is your favourite to win the MVP for this year?
Well, I'm finding it hard to split Maddie Brown and Irene van Dijk, but what a great group of players that they've put together, and probably a few unlucky to miss out too this year.
Absolutely. Well, let's now have a look at the best young player nominees. Of course, this is for players eligible being 22 years and under as of the 1st of January 2013. So these are our young and up-and-coming players in the ANZ Champs. Our nominees are Storm Purvis from the Southern Steel, Juliana Nyopu from the Magic, Amarette Wild from the New South Wales Swifts, Tiahunga Rio Selby Riggett from the Central Pulse, and Kayla Cullen, of course, who won the award last year from the Northern Mystics. Sherelle, who do you like in that bunch?
Well, I don't know if we can give it to the same person 2 years running, but for me it's Kayla Cullen again. I think her combination has worked extremely well in that Mystics defensive lineup, so I'm from her again.
Well, that's about it for another episode of Centre Pass. Thank you very much for joining us. Make sure you jump onto the ANZ Champs Facebook page and also the website. Check us out on Twitter as well. Sherelle, don't forget too, the ANZ Champs All-Star team, the official one will be announced next week, but there's also the fan one available as well.
Yep, absolutely. Get online and vote. It's tough to put it together, but it's a lot of fun too.
Make sure you check your local guides for all the broadcast details for the preliminary final. We are down to our final 3 teams, but after next weekend, only 2 teams will remain. We'll catch you next week for Centre Pass. Goodbye for now. Thank you to our sponsors, our principal sponsor,
Associate sponsors,
support sponsors and suppliers,
and our broadcast partners.